There is only one corner of the universe you can be certain of improving, and that's your own self. The secret of genius is to carry the spirit of the child into old age, which means never losing your enthusiasm. After silence, that which comes nearest to expressing the inexpressible is music. There are things known and there are things unknown, and in between are the doors of perception. That men do not learn very much from the lessons of history is the most important of all the lessons of history. Maybe this world is another planet's hell. Facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored. Dream in a pragmatic way. Beauty is worse than wine, it intoxicates both the holder and beholder. Experience is not what happens to you, it's what you do with what happens to you. The more powerful and original a mind, the more it will incline towards the religion of solitude. Technological progress has merely provided us with more efficient means for going backwards. To travel is to discover that everyone is wrong about other countries. Every man's memory is his private literature. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you mad. Experience teaches only the teachable. The most shocking fact about war is that its victims and its instruments are individual human beings, and that these individual beings are condemned by the monstrous conventions of politics to murder or be murdered in quarrels not their own. It is a bit embarrassing to have been concerned with the human problem all one's life and find at the end that one has no more to offer by way of advice than try to be a little kinder. The propagandist's purpose is to make one set of people forget that certain other sets of people are human. The most valuable of all education is the ability to make yourself do the thing you have to do, when it has to be done, whether you like it or not. Great is truth, but still greater, from a practical point of view, is silence about truth. By simply not mentioning certain subjects, totalitarian propagandists have influenced opinion much more effectively than they could have by the most eloquent denunciations. There isn't any formula or method. You learn to love by loving, by paying attention and doing what one thereby discovers has to be done. There's only one effectively redemptive sacrifice, the sacrifice of self-will to make room for the knowledge of God. I'm afraid of losing my obscurity. Genuineness only thrives in the dark. Like celery. Consistency is contrary to nature, contrary to life. The only completely consistent people are dead. Most human beings have an almost infinite capacity for taking things for granted. Sons have always a rebellious wish to be disillusioned by that which charmed their fathers. A fanatic is a man who consciously overcompensates a secret doubt. Hell isn't merely paved with good intentions, it's walled and roofed with them. Yes, and furnished too. Science has explained nothing. The more we know, the more fantastic the world becomes and the profounder the surrounding darkness. A childlike man is not a man whose development has been arrested, on the contrary, he is a man who has given himself a chance of continuing to develop long after most adults have muffled themselves in the cocoon of middle-aged habit and convention. The worst enemy of life, freedom and the common decencies is total anarchy, their second worst enemy is total efficiency. My father considered a walk among the mountains as the equivalent of church-going. One of the great attractions of patriotism, it fulfills our worst wishes. In the person of our nation we are able, vicariously, to bully and cheat. Bully and cheat, what's more, with a feeling that we are profoundly virtuous. My fate cannot be mastered, it can only be collaborated with and thereby, to some extent, directed. Nor am I the captain of my soul, I am only its noisiest passenger. A belief in hell and the knowledge that every ambition is doomed to frustration at the hands of a skeleton have never prevented the majority of human beings from behaving as though death were no more than an unfounded rumor. Speed provides the one genuinely modern pleasure. People intoxicate themselves with work so they won't see how they really are. The charm of history and its enigmatic lesson consist in the fact that, from age to age, nothing changes and yet everything is completely different. Man is an intelligence in servitude to his organs. There is no substitute for talent. Industry and all its virtues are of no avail. Perhaps it's good for one to suffer. Can an artist do anything if he's happy? Would he ever want to do anything? What is art, after all, but a protest against the horrible inclemency of life? Bondage is the life of personality, and for bondage the personal self will fight with tireless resourcefulness and the most stubborn cunning. Every man who knows how to read has it in his power to magnify himself, to multiply the ways in which he exists, to make his life full, significant and interesting. There is something curiously boring about somebody else's happiness. To his dog, every man is Napoleon, hence the constant popularity of dogs. Several excuses are always less convincing than one. Man approaches the unattainable truth through a succession of errors. Children are remarkable for their intelligence and ardor, for their curiosity, their intolerance of shams, the clarity and ruthlessness of their vision. All gods are homemade, and it is we who pull their strings, and so, give them the power to pull ours. Men do not learn much from the lessons of history, and that is the most important of all the lessons of history. The proper study of mankind is books. Those who believe that they are exclusively in the right are generally those who achieve something. That all men are equal is a proposition to which, at ordinary times, no sane human being has ever given his assent. What is absurd and monstrous about war is that men who have no personal quarrel should be trained to murder one another in cold blood. A man may be a pessimistic determinist before lunch and an optimistic believer in the will's freedom after it. Cynical realism is the intelligent man's best excuse for doing nothing in an intolerable situation. A democracy which makes or even effectively prepares for modern, scientific war must necessarily cease to be democratic. No country can be really well prepared for modern war unless it is governed by a tyrant, at the head of a highly trained and perfectly obedient bureaucracy.